I always get one impression when we talk about porn. When you ask people about porn, everybody seems surprised. So today we want to talk about pornography. Is porn a problem?
This entire porn thing seems like the worst of issues that happen to people, but it is not any different from drug addiction. It is not different
addiction.
from gambling. It's not different from tobacco consumption. People that smoke. I think even social media addiction is a thing. It's a serious issue.
Very serious issue
that
now.
deals with productivity. People who are addicted do not exactly want to be addicted. When it gets to the point of compulsion, it does not matter. People would watch porn in church.
People have turned it to a performative sport. You sit around with people, how long did you last? What did you do? And it seems like everybody is competing to beat the next person. It's bad in relationships because
sex should not exactly just be about penetration. It is laziness for people to just come in and then it's penetration and then we are done and then you go. Come on, is it commercial sex?
How often do you think that people come in contact with porn? So we're here again on the Intimate Matters podcast. Welcome to this episode. And for today, we want to discuss something that, especially around so many people, everybody claims to be innocent about it, but really want to know. So today we want to talk about pornography. We want to talk about porn versus the reality. We want to look at it from the both side. And we want to see how it affects us, how it affects our sexual and reproductive health. Don't forget that this is your go-to podcast when it comes to issues as it pertains to sexual and reproductive health. I am your host, Nurse Akwa Wakman, and today I'm joined by an amazing person, a psychotherapist by profession, Mr. Udeme Okono. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Many thanks for having me, Akwa.
Mr. Udeme Okono is a very amazing person. If you see the way he discusses the psychology of humans, and you know that this is somebody that is well versed with knowledge. 11 years practicing as a psychotherapist. So how has it been?
Well, yeah, more like an uncharted territory. Yeah, for the early parts, and then it was just about going the path less traveled. I never wanted to do what every other person was doing, so I decided to go this other way, and it's been fascinating for me because, I mean, this is an area where you do not have a lot of models, so you have to be your own model. You have to make your own mistakes and correct yourselves. And then the closest of models you have would be in the West, out there in Europe, America, and all of that. So, however, also because of opportunities of travel, exposure, and all, I've also been able to build very strong alliances that have helped my work. And on the whole, it's quite fulfilling seeing being able to support people who are struggling with diverse mental health concerns, work with them side by side to recovery. So, I mean, that's quite fulfilling for me every other day.
All right, so the part less traveled stood out for me. I think I can relate to that because when I do what I do here, sexual and reproductive health, there's always been that question about why that of everything that
everything in this world
that you possibly could do. And like you said, build strong alliances from you've been at King's College London, you've been at the University of Reading, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Yeah. It's been amazing, and I see that you don't just do psychotherapy. You're trying to align it with sustainability,
absolutely,
especially in the aspect of climate. How do you put that together?
The truth is, there is no hard demarcation between what we do as professionals' career and the world that we live in. All right, the earth, our environment. And so one way or the other, there is a thing called the nature-nurture dichotomy. So the things that are not inbuilt, the things that you were not born with, one way or the other, our environment has a way of putting them on us. So if the environment has that much influence on us, then it means that we must pay attention to our environment. It means that we must care about Mother Earth. There are a lot of changes that have happened. For instance, you could tell that a lot has changed. In the past, there was a time we used to talk about August breaks. And right now, the lines are really blurry. And so you go out there and then the sun is so scorching, like it's like we're already experiencing hellfire. And then back then in primary school and secondary school, they used to teach us about the zone layer. It didn't make sense. Do you understand? Ozone layer depletion here and there. And then we see it in real time, how all of these factors affect us as humans, as it affects our health. And so we cannot, I think it was in 2022, where I was curious about understanding the interconnectedness of climate change and mental health. And I was privileged to attend the climate reality leadership training in Accra, Ghana. And it was there that it began to make sense to me that, also with recent studies that we have seen, that there is a correlation between climate change and mental health. So someone who is suddenly beginning to feel these changes in the environment, you're not able to understand, you're not able to project what could happen tomorrow. You go out in the morning, weather forecast says sunny day. So you dress light, and then you step out before it is 10 o'clock, there's heavy downpour for the rest of the day. So all of these changes has a way around playing around with our mental health. And so if we want to now isolate these things and not talk about these things and then forget about sustainability, because for whatever ventures that we are into, we must look at sustainability. How far? How is this affecting Mother Earth? How is this affecting our environment? Your building, how does this affect, water flow, passage of water? A lot of people are building on, waterways. And then tomorrow when we have flooding within the city, we are saying government is not doing anything. So these things are always have a way around connecting with each other. And so I'm passionate about even studying more about climate change and all of these issues. So that's basically what motivates me. That's what drives what I do. And so far, thank you.
All right. So you see how much the things we do when it comes to psychology relates then to Mother Earth. Quite commendable, sir. Not just taking care of Mother Earth, but also taking care of the people that are embedded in Mother Earth. And for today, we want to talk about the people. We want to talk about something that I want to say has slowly become a norm. Because just before we started this session, I was having some discussions with the people in the studio behind these cameras. Yeah. And I was asking them about porn.
Yeah.
And I always get one impression when we talk about porn. When you ask people about porn, everybody seems surprised.
Yeah.
But porn is one of the fastest growing industry, in fact, the biggest grossing industries. We look at it, it's even bigger than Hollywood. That's one of the biggest film industry in the whole wide world. And then we're talking about trillions in dollars when it comes to, the returns that the industry is making.
Yeah.
So I want to start with you personally.
Yeah.
Do you think in your practice and your interaction with people, how often do you think that people come in contact with porn? And do you think that, because people say this, do you think that most people had their first, what I would call sex education from porn?
Multi-pronged approach. For one, I do not like to speculate. So I won't say that most people had their first experience through porn when I've not had statistics to back that up. However, I believe also that a significant percentage of people, especially from our generation up until now, and the ones that are to come, will have their first exposure to sex education through porn because of the ease of access to pornographic content. You don't need to go looking for it. It just jumps in your face most times.
Yeah, as you're scrolling through social
media. It jumps in your face. It may not, for you, you may be very discreet, you may have screened. For instance, if you carry my phone and just maybe go to YouTube or go to my browser and want to do a search, my search history will begin to show a bit. Do you understand? And these algorithms pick what to show us based on some of the things that we have searched in the past. So maybe my phone could be clean. And then midway, I'm in an emergency and then my battery is low. And then I get your device to check something. And as I enter into your YouTube, for the first few seconds, that is what I am seeing. I'm seeing pornographic content. So imagine teenagers who, because of upbringing and our environment, have not been open to holding conversations about sex education. And so the first time they are seeing it, They are surprised. It's a mix of surprise and fascination. And especially adolescents, it is called, in psychology, we call it a period of storm and stress. So this is a period where they experiment a lot. So they are seeing something and then there is curiosity building up. So they want to know more. Do you understand? So they indulge. And it seems to give a bit of satisfaction for some at the initial point because based on upbringing and stuff, they could be somewhat circumspect. It could look dirty and quite ungodly from the innate drive of whatever has been fed to the person. But if it gives some kind of satisfaction or some kind, because some people, the truth is, if there were no consequences for actions, we would be living in a very chaotic society. Matter of fact, we actually still do because of delays in the dispensation of these consequences. So imagine where I happen upon this kind of content and I have the whole room to myself. Nobody is coming in. So I could say, let me just check it a bit. So it starts from checking it a bit to trying out, to beginning to build perceptions, ideas of how it would feel like actually carrying out these acts by yourself. So, what's the point? A lot of people are going to have their first encounters with this pornography. Some of them not out of their own free will. You know, sometimes the conversations that are happening on social media these days that I get to know about, like the very trending one about someone who traveled to China and the rest of the things. I know all of the things that I know against my will.
Yeah,
I don't read. It is just there in my face. Every other day you open and then you just want to scroll. It is there. You must see it. So there is a lot that I believe that as we indulge, as we go further in the conversations, we could begin to also ideate. We could begin to also think of safeguards that we could put in place, especially for younger people. Yes, at least let them grow to the age of making decisions and then they begin to, because it gets worse when it is these people who can't make decisions for themselves, people that they are responsible to other people, and then they're already exposed to those kind of content with no context whatsoever. So it begins to build up ideas, could practically damage their general perception about sex and intimacy.
All right. So just on that perception, like you've said, in your practice, do you think, how often do you see people come in
you asked that. You asked that. I missed that in the process. So the truth is, the whole subject of mental health in Africa as a whole is a subject that is discussed in hushed tones, right? It's not at the front burner of our conversations. So there is already sufficient stigma to go around when you say that, oh, I need to speak with a psychologist.
So like, you don't matter.
You don't dement. Do you understand? So it's like you're on colo. Do you understand? So we hear these things. And so when you now get into therapy, I would say that while I have had to encounter a number of people who have come in for cases around addiction generally, over the course of my practice in the last 11 years, I have not had a significant number of Africans, Nigerians, come to even talk about addiction. I think that in the whole of last year, I had just one client who was talking about addiction, and it was gambling addiction.
Okay.
Now, but I meet clients because I see clients from the UK, from Europe generally, America, and then Asia. Those guys are very open to talking about everything and anything, and I think that I've encountered just quite a handful of such cases around porn addiction. So, however, it is not an everyday thing that you encounter. Just as you did a random sampling. Everybody is surprised. Everybody's not like, what are you talking about? Like, we're all children of God, right? So we're not familiar with these things. What's porn? What were you talking about? So it's not a conversation that people openly have. And I think there are cultural issues that have contributed to our willingness to speak about issues, because it is either we are spiritualizing it or it does not exist.
Okay.
Okay, it exists, but in our head way and in our social conversations, we relegate it to the background so that, and who is going to start the conversation? Imagine that you're sitting with your friends and then suddenly you're like, porn. Like, what is
This one
talking
Satan
about?
don't carry out.
Do you understand? And so, if you now find a committee or a community of people who are comfortable talking about porn, it would be a coming together of addicts, people who enjoy the
Enjoy
content.
it.
So they are recommending to each other. They are sharing. You get this one where I see. So it's not people who are coming to say, I think that there is a problem and
Yeah, we
we
should
should be able
seek.
to say no. Is the fact that we are sharing the virus on, like we're continuing, like there's this one I saw, you should try. So that's basically, it's not an everyday conversation. It's not an everyday thing that we happen upon. And in general sense, addiction generally is not a subject that
Nigerians and
Nigerians and
Africans
Africans talk about every other day. If we even have such people, mostly women volunteer information more
than men.
when it comes to addiction. They cry for help earlier. But men always feel like they're going to wrestle it out. I'm going to sort it. I'm handling it. Men generally do not want to feel like they are at the mercy of anybody. So even when they come to therapy, you must be able to break those barriers and create a safe space. Let them understand that, look, this is actually therapy. It's not a community hall. Whatever you share here, there are ethics around confidentiality. So your information is safe here. So until you're able to break that barrier, then those conversations will never happen. They could give you sketchy information, insinuate or point, and you can't work with those kind of. We're not here to now fix puzzles like that. If you do, psychotherapy in itself functions based on available information, volunteered, and implied information based on clients' expression generally. So that's basically it. It's not an everyday conversation.
Okay, so you mentioned something that
Yeah.
if we're having a community, if especially in Africa, if we see people come together because of porn, if I should say that, it will most likely be addicts who wants to come together and exchange because they don't even see it like a problem. So the first question would be, is porn a problem?
Is porn a problem? I think that would be a moral question
Okay.
and a religious question also, because from a religious standpoint and a moral standpoint, we could already say that it is a problem. However, also, based on research, there are long-term, far-reaching implications of consuming pornographic content. So, in the general sense, it is going to, I would say that it is a problem. But happening upon it and moving on may not in itself be a problem. Because there are tons of people. I think that in our lifetime, whether we like to agree or not, you have happened upon some kind of pornographic content.
Sure.
It may not be by your own doing. It just popped in your face, and then somehow you want to. It could be an ad.
Yeah.
Do you see how these things jump out? You go to a particular website, and then a pornographic content pops. You could be doing a simple Google search, and then going to a landing page of another website. Something like that pops in your face. So it would be a problem because of the damages that it causes, the far-reaching implications of indulging, the fact that it gets to a point of compulsion, the whole idea of addiction. Once it gets to a point of addiction, anything in its excess dosage is a problem. So I agree to that extent that it is a problem.
Okay, so then the next question would be, if you've talked about getting to compulsion and addiction, why then is it that the people involved in it do not see it in that light? Is it because of, you talked about, is it because of the delayed consequence? That I could say that, some of these people may do this thing and they don't even realize that they've become addicted. You know, there are people that will claim, I just they look and pass.
Yeah.
But then I just they look am today, I just they look am
Yeah,
tomorrow,
and
the
then the
next tomorrow.
experiments
So
and all
could
that.
that be why? Why don't these people see it as a problem?
I think it answers itself to some extent because this entire porn thing seems like the worst of issues that happen to people when we sit to discuss. But it is not any different from drug addiction.
Addiction,
It is not
gambling
different
addiction.
from gambling. It's not different from tobacco consumption. People that smoke, even on the pack of their cigarettes, smokers
Yeah,
are
they're
liable
liable
to
to,
die
and they're
young.
still
They
smoke.
know we are going to, so, like, they know. The fact that, you see, the issue is like Christianity in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, if you did
Something
something,
wrong.
immediate this
Exactly.
thing, implications were there, like signs and wonders were there. But in the New Testament, there is a promise of hellfire for
Fire.
people that have. But every day they say
God is
2,000
long
years. God is
suffering.
about. They say that Jesus is coming soon. So there is an idea of soon, and then we have seen at least I've lived more than 30 years now. And he has not come yet. When I was born, like 5 years, they started telling me this. So I believe that I think it's also the thing about unhealthy lifestyles generally in humans. So you would tell people that it's not okay to take junk food, don't eat junk, don't junk. But I just want another piece of burger because I mean it's not exactly showing like
Yeah,
right
you're not
now.
showing
That it's
what is
not
happening.
showing. So and then my grandfather in the village, he used to eat these things now, and then nothing happened to him. So the fact that person A, person B, and person C have successfully gone through this, and there was no implication. I would believe that my luck too
Will shine.
will shine. Two, people who are addicted do not exactly want to be addicted. They do not enjoy addiction. No. Nobody likes to be compelled. Humans like to have control of things. So when it gets to a point where it is out of their control, like you just find yourself, you know that once you get to the third bottle, that you are high on alcohol. But you're sitting with your friends and everybody has a carton of beer under their chair. So you keep drinking and the conversation goes on. And then it keeps going like that. You keep going. The same thing with people who maybe smoke weed and do all of those things. Take out drug misuse and all of that. So it's not exactly that they enjoy it. There is a thing about compulsion that happens. Imagine that as we're sitting here, the owner of this studio has to go and open and close that door every 3 minutes, every 2 minutes. Every minute he has to open and close the door. He closed the door when he came in. But when he's sitting in his head, it's like, go and close the door. He goes to close the door again. I noticed that I had closed it. And then he comes to sit back. There are conversations that are happening in his head. And it's like, that time, did I close it? Or maybe I thought I had closed it. And then you go and then you're like, I closed it. So compulsion is a state that makes, at this point, you have lost control of things, okay? The things that it is just about repeated actions over and over
Over
and over
again.
and over. You want to stop, but you cannot. Okay, you want to stop. For some people, it gets to a point where they have discovered that this is damaging. I'm not exactly myself again. Some of them would have failed relationships because of these consumptions. And then they want to stop, but they cannot. Because there is a form of satisfaction that it brings. However, it then goes beyond the satisfaction when it becomes an addiction. So it is compulsion, like what we would now talk about obsessive compulsive
Impulsive.
disorders and all of that. So this disorder is characterized by repeated uncontrolled actions. So, like the example that I cited, he will have to close the door, close the door, close the door until maybe someone notices and takes him out of this place. As he's even living, if he's the owner of this facility, he could get home and then he feels that he did not lock this shop and we come back. So that is how addiction happens. So it's more of a mental issue it affects the way you process information, the way you think. So even when you want to not see it, and again, social media and algorithms have made it so much so that even when you have proposed in your heart, like Daniel, that you will not defile yourself with the king's meat, the king's meat will
they will
come to
bring the
you.
king's
Yes,
meat.
the king's meat will be presented to you on a platter. The moment you open your social media,
Yeah. It's
it
there.
is in your face because you have done these searches in the past, and it is a pattern. It wants to. The idea of social media is that when social media used to be free, nobody really cared. It was information was arranged in a way that, oh, who posted first, which was the most recent information. But now, because social media platforms are monetizing,
Size.
if you are advertising with Facebook, for instance, and then you are selling body wash, and then today you just simply do a search of body wash. These platforms have a way around sharing data. So imagine that you did a Google search about Google body wash, and then you open your Instagram. The first ad you are seeing is body wash. You go to Facebook. The
Body
first,
wash.
you understand, body wash. So the algorithm stack it in such a way that it shows you what you want to see. It shows you the things that you are interested in. They are trying to not bore you out, so they want to feed you as much of what you like as
So that
possible.
you can stay.
And the whole that is why we spend long hours doom scrolling. It's not like you're looking for anything particular. You're just going. You're just going. So these things are quite intense, and I think even social media addiction is a thing. It's a serious
Yeah, very
issue
serious issue
that
now.
deals with productivity. It will look like you're in control,
But you're not.
but you are not. It is going to affect your sleep patterns. It is
Yeah.
going to affect your work. It is going to affect productivity, and then you keep going.
Unfortunately, I can relate. Unfortunately, I can relate to that one.
Exactly. So these things have a way around taking a toll on us, and so that's just about it. It's not a demon that is isolated. It is a demon that we have now demonized completely, and then we make the other ones seem less demonic.
Monique, and make this one very big. All right. So
Yeah.
when it comes to therapy,
Yeah.
do you think that, especially when you meet with your clients, the people that have this issue with addiction,
Yeah.
for them and also for their partner, do you think that it pressures them to want to be perfect
Yes.
in
No.
terms of what they do sexually?
Yes. Actually, pornographic contents are carefully curated to give some kind of instant, fast, immediate arousal and satisfaction. So, in the process of curating this content, it begins to build in our minds for people who consume this content. Before you know, you begin to have a false idea about body image. So there is a way a woman should look, there is a way a man should look. You forget that this is a movie.
But most people.
They don't even know it is an act. They are acting out. So it is carefully curated. They have actors the same way they do movies, and then someone is a child, was born like today, and then they say 3 years
Later.
you see a grown up, and then they say 10 years
Yeah.
later there is so they can compress very many years, they can compress very many minutes and hours of stop and continue, compress it into a prolonged period of time. And so it presents a false idea of how long sex should take place. It gives a wrong impression about stamina. It gives a wrong impression about body image, and satisfaction. So that is why in today's world, apart from medical conditions, you hear people talk about 2 minute men. There are certain exposures, there are certain amounts of information that has
That
been
brings certain
consumed.
expectations.
So there are certain expectations as to how long people should have sex. And so imagine that we have a couple whom one of them probably has consumed a sufficient amount of pornographic content. And then let us say that it is the woman, or maybe, yeah, let's assume that it is the woman that has consumed sufficient amount of pornography, and then the man comes in and they are married or something, and then they are trying, the man is trying, like,
He's doing his
man is
best.
trying,
The
he's
man
doing
is
his
doing his
best,
best.
but they will say, what's this? Yeah, like, what's wrong with you? Like, just now. Do you understand? So, and then if you flip it, the man is like, he feels like there's something wrong. Is it that you're not attracted to me? Is there something wrong? Why are you tired? Madam is always running away from you. Like, what's wrong with you? Are you trying to kill me? And so, exposure to this content has a lot of, it brings, causes a lot of damage, mostly to relationships. And truthfully, it also affects our productivity. It affects the attention span of humans. There are research statistics to back this up. So it is something that affects a couple, and if they are not careful enough to open up to seek help, it is something that actually ends relationships, because there are unrealistic expectations here and there. And then man or woman is trying, but it will never be enough, because there were benchmarks that were set. Not any fault of the part of the couple, but because of information that has been consumed and internalized over the years. And so it feels like when the man arrives earlier, it's like he's weak, he cannot. Then they talk about multiple orgasms. We can talk about that, right?
Yeah, we can.
So they will talk about multiple orgasms, and then some of the men are not able to even achieve
They
one.
can't even achieve
They
one, not to
cannot
talk
achieve
of
one. You're
multi-
talking of multiples. So it becomes a problem. So expectations, all of these unrealistic expectations build up when when people consume this pornographic content, which, as I had said, I repeat, is carefully curated acts
Sure.
to bring about. And then sometimes you see that intimacy is completely lost in the process. Matter of fact, porn is performative. It is mostly performance. And so if you take that into your union, uh, women and men have a particular threshold before they are aroused enough to have sex. And so, but in pornographic content, it just presents that it's like a switch.
Yeah.
Once the action, and then
Everything that
it's
happened.
happening. So it breeds on unhealthy expectations. It feels like it should happen now and now. And then there is a possibility that the partners are not in the mood at the point. It could be that the other person is not in that mental frame, because for sex to happen, consensual sex to happen among two consenting adults, married, let's stick to married, it requires an amount of it requires consent, one, and then it requires a considerable period of intimacy to happen. It could be touch, it could be words, it could be presence, okay, before penetration can happen. Anything shy of that could be characterized as rape. Do you understand? So, but this does not present that there are such barriers, there should be such barriers. It's just like once we say one, two, ready, go, it happens. So when people who have consumed this kind of information get into marriage at the early stage, and then it is not like that, it feels like there's something wrong with their partner. It feels like their partner is not attracted to them enough. Like, what's happening? Don't you hear them have those kind of hush conversations? Like, am I not appealing to you?
Feeling.
Don't you like me? So those are some of the issues that would
Come from having expectations
yes,
from a
having
partner.
those seemingly, matter of fact, unrealistic
You know, because
expectations.
that's the issue we have, like, in the clinical space, where I hosted an event where people come in and talk about sex and reproduction, and as part of coming into the event, you know, the expectations for what you're coming to hear. And the guy was like, he wants to last for hours.
Wow.
Like he wrote it down there specifically.
hours.
Yeah, that he wants to last for hours.
Interesting.
So and I was like, do you realize what you're asking? It's like it's like Jesus told his disciples, you don't understand what you're asking. You don't actually understand what you're asking for, what you're asking. Because most people do, you go around and you see people say they want 8 inches. Now, and I tell ladies, do you realize what 8 inches actually is? Like in real life, not what you're hearing. And we look at stats that starts to back this up. 50% of men fall under 7 inches. So that means if you're looking for people with 8 inches, 9 inches, we're looking at a very small crop of men spread across the whole world.
The whole world.
So your locality, your village, or the town you are living, you don't even know if there is if they put one person in your locality. And I was telling them, because that's something people don't know, that it's scripted, it's a movie. The way they have to source actors, for example, they will say, if you're looking for somebody to act as a lecturer, for example, this actor is always good.
Yes.
And you notice that you see him in lecturer roles across various...
casting him on a lecturer role.
The same thing happens. So they will say 10 inches. I ask them, don't you notice that it's always a small crop of people doing each of those scenes or in each of those different movies? And this brings, well expectations. And that is why we're having this conversation, because we've seen it happen again and again, that people start to have problem even when there is no problem, because your expectation creates a problem for you even before it happens. So thank you so much for taking out time to expand on that. In fact, I'm always of the opinion, most times when I go to teach now, I carry like a tape. A measuring tape. So that when I'll be like, how many inches? I'll be like, okay, let me drag it out. Let me drag out I'll drag it out for you to actually see what you're expecting.
Yeah.
And look at yourself, ask yourself. Sometimes I ask them, place it on your legs.
See how far it goes.
See how far it goes if somebody carries it. So that is why we have you on the Intimate Matters podcast. We talk about issues like this because we believe that you should have knowledge about your sexual and reproductive health. If you're just joining us, this is us talking about porn versus reality, how it impacts on your sexual and reproductive health. On YouTube, I hope you've already subscribed to our channel. We're also on Instagram, on TikTok, and also on Facebook. And if you go on our YouTube description, you'll see a link to our WhatsApp channel. There you can join the channel and get to interact with us. We're still discussing with Mr. Udemo O'Connor about how porn really impacts us. So what I like, apart from the expectation itself, thereby making the sex not too, what I should say, pleasurable, because people have turned it to a performative sport. You sit around with people, how long did you last? What did you do? And it seems like everybody is competing to beat the next person. It's bad in relationships, because when you get into a relationship now, you're supposed to beat somebody's ex.
Oh yeah, beat his record.
Beat his record. So like if his record was like 15 minutes, you need to come in like 25. You need to shatter it completely. Wow. Because
to make an impression.
To make an impression for yourself. And it's so bad that unfortunately, if the person you are with doesn't have the understanding, they may seem that they have fallen below. You know, they are going low. Most people don't want to go low. Wow.
No.
Everybody,
nobody wants to go low.
Nobody wants to go low. Everyone wants to go higher. Yeah. So how does this play into the issue of self-esteem? Not just as do you think it goes away from the bedroom into like general life as it pertains to self-esteem?
No, it does. It does. It does. The same way that people who are addicted to all forms of issues get to struggle with self-esteem. A significant percentage of those people are going to struggle with self-esteem issues because, issues that we cannot speak about openly, like this. And then you understand that you're a victim of this, you're struggling with this. You are going to have to be extremely careful to not spill your beans.
Sure.
You get. So in the midst of other people, you are somewhat uncomfortable. And then there are certain conversations that people have, and then it looks like they're discussing you. It feels like it is you. And then when you begin to have these unrealistic expectations even of yourself. And then possibly you have a partner and then you guys go into sex and then you're not able to meet up what you have been seeing. It is going to, even when your partner has not complained, you have judged yourself
Self.
already.
Okay.
So it begins to feel like you are inadequate, you're not sufficient for this person. You are going to begin to conjecture a lot of things in your head that, oh, maybe it's just a matter of time she's going to leave me. Meanwhile, she has never complained about it. Probably never noticed. Maybe that's even her threshold. Maybe this is already even too stressful for her.
Uh-huh.
But you have now put so much pressure on yourself, and so it is going to affect your self-esteem. There are certain conversations, even in marriage, it is there. In marriages, issues of sex, couples, a lot of them are not very open to discussing that, even with themselves. So it is more like an act that happens in the dark. So when it is about, for most people, they switch off lights and
Okay.
then they go in onto each other, like King James would say. And then when
And they know
and
themselves.
they know themselves. And then when they are done, that's it. Just so it's not. When the Bible speaks about they were naked and unashamed, it's sex is actually an aspect of marriage. It is supposed to be pleasurable. It is supposed to be for reproduction also. So the understanding, these expectations that have built up in the process of consuming this pornographic content definitely has a way of dealing with your self-esteem. And then when it gets to the point of compulsion, you are worried at what point you are going to be aroused, at what point that it could embarrass you at any point and then require that you satisfy it. Or maybe you're just sitting these days that everybody's doing privacy screen guard. You could think that your own is privacy enough, but the next person that's sitting to you is seeing what you are watching, and then at some point you turn and then they are seeing you. It could be someone that you held in very high esteem, and then you see that like wow.
We see it on social media where people
Yeah.
zoom into people's phone
Exactly,
and
and then
airport and stuff, and
Sure.
they're like,
So in public spaces, when it gets to the point of compulsion, it does not matter. People would watch porn in church. Yes, because they have lost control. It's like when it comes knocking, you have to satisfy it. So it definitely has a way around dealing with your self-esteem. And then generally, anyone who is not fully in charge of things, anyone who is struggling with one form of addiction or the other, is going to struggle with self-esteem, because by our creation, we were supposed to take dominion. We were supposed to take charge. We were supposed to be in charge. So whenever a man or a human being feels like they have lost control, it affects them. So that's basically what I could say in that.
yeah. So because I remember I first stumbled upon porn when I was like 6 years of age. Saw it in a neighbor's phone,
Okay.
and I don't know why that image digged. It was more like the organ, the penis was curved. And I grew up, I wasn't even yet a teenager, puberty did not start, but I grew up with that mindset that to be a man,
Yeah.
actually, you need to
You
have
must
a
have a
curved
curved
penis.
penis. Oh.
So teenage came, puberty set in, and I was still looking out for it.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't until my final year in nursing school that one of my lecturer come in and be like, today we want to discuss disorders of the sexual and reproductive system. And he mentions Peyronie's disease. I was like, it's a disease where there is excessive curvature of the penis. And I started laughing.
That's what you were looking for.
I started laughing. I laughed so hard that the lecturer sent me out of the class. I couldn't stop myself from laughing. I left. People looked at me and asked,
Yeah.
was something
Why-
wrong? Is there anything
else he said that we did not hear?
But it was when I went back and my guys can be like, Alpha, why you do that? I was like, guys, come and sit down. Let me tell you people this story. That I actually this is almost 15 years of consistently. In fact, I grew up, kept looking at my penis. When will it curve? What will happen? Years of consistently
Looking out for the
at
curve.
it, waiting for it. In fact, I even got to a point, you started asking, is there something they did that you have not done?
Yeah,
Is
you
there
have
something
not
that
done,
you're
yeah.
supposed to do? And this is the kind of issue. And it was so bad that at a certain point, because normally some people's penis curves, and maybe hostels, you're in school,
Yeah.
and some people undress and some people on his car, and you're like, I've not even started. So sometimes you start to feel, because
Inferior.
unfortunately, like you said, it's all in your head.
Yes.
These people don't know, but
They
you'll be
don't.
like, they are okay. I'm not. If these people look at me, they'll laugh. So you stop. At a certain point, you feel like I'm not betting with you guys. You guys
Yeah.
do your stuff. Let me find my own level and go and do my stuff. So that's the issue. The compulsion that actually comes with it. So there's also another issue that I always why do like you said, we notice especially for here that most times they do it. Maybe they get the pleasure that comes with it. What always necessitates the soberness, if I should call it that. I don't know if that's guilt that usually comes most times after exposure to porn. So you see someone, maybe you tell them don't do it. They say no, they want to do it, but after they are done watching it, for example, it seems like my people will say, "Man, they do more." It seems like they pour them water and they just become sober and maybe
I think it's
they
it's
withdraw.
it's basically, for one, I think about it's about curiosity. That's generally how curiosity is. So you're curious about figuring out something, or let us say that there is a particular person you admire so much in your life and look up to. And then suddenly you have a sit down with the person, and then the person sounds very shallow. They're like,
I mean,
so
nah.
so this whole thing was, this guy was a hype all along. So what's so it's like that sometimes, because um when you, it's like any other form of substance misuse. You're going to have to increase the dosage with time. You continue to increase the dosage, the consumption, because the body has a way around adjusting and adjusting and adjusting until it cannot adjust anymore. So that is why people build, maybe the body, something would call frigidity of sorts. So you take a bottle of alcohol today, maybe of beer, and then it knocks you out. And then with time, you take one and add one more.
And it doesn't.
And then it is until you get to 2.5 that it knocks you. So the body has a way around continue to adapt and adjust until it breaks, or until it gets to the point where it can no longer adjust. So again, another reason, because you mentioned the idea around guilt and shame and stuff, it is mostly, I think that for most people, it is about religion.
And culture.
It is about, yes, religious and cultural teachings and beliefs. So we know from what we have been taught, for most people, from childhood, Sunday school, here and there, up to teenagers, classes, to adulthood. And they have taught you, sometimes they may not be bold enough to call these things by name, but they have insinuated it, they have suggested it. So you know what it is sometimes when you happen upon it. And so you are trying to not see it. But curiosity says, this thing that they have told you, don't see. Do you even know what it looks like? I think it's a thing about humans. The way is it not the same thing that happened to Adam and Eve in the
If they
garden?
wanted to
They
see,
wanted to, Eve wanted to, like, this thing they are saying we should not. Let's just at least see. You are telling me fruit that is in there, but how does it even taste?
yes,
Like, let me even try. Like, so it's not that I want to really go against your instruction, but let me test this thing and see. So that maybe if I'm discussing with people, I tell them that apple is not even sweet. Even the people that are telling the apple is not even sweet, they will also want to try
go
out.
and try it for
So
themselves.
that's it's. I think it's the way the human mind is structured. It is the curiosity that also helps us to thrive in life. It is something that also drives us to achieve, to supersede our own previous achievements, to keep going. So, religion and cultural beliefs in our communities back then, you would hear about all of those kind of conversations. Older people will say that, I think that the way we were taught growing up, sex was completely condemned. So at some point, we did not even know that sex even happens in marriage. So it felt like sex in itself was evil. So, with this in mind, anything that is related to sex, and now performative sex, having sex in public, it has to take a lot of courage, because some of the unwritten, unsaid things, on unspoken culture, you have never seen it happen. And then maybe the closest of what you had seen of someone in their nakedness was someone who was mentally disturbed, and you saw how everybody was looking away or trying to get them covered. There is something it builds up in your head as you're growing up. So it can never now suddenly be normal that you can watch someone in HD, people in HD, having sex, and then another person that is not affiliated to that practice walks in and then you're comfortable. You will unplug things. Remember back in the days,
You're using
you would read
VCD or
throwback.
DVD.
Exactly, and then
And
there's
then-
power outage. And you will have to wait. Not these days that there are generators everywhere. You will have to wait and
You
wait
have to
for,
mount guard on that
exactly,
on that
for
video
power.
player.
Your father comes back and wants to see a movie. Suddenly there's power supply, and maybe not even put off the TV, and then it just
Everything.
starts, and you are dead. So so these things may not even be exactly written, or you may not have been told, but because when we talk about when you hear people say that you are constituting a public nuisance, maybe that act that that person is undertaking in another culture may not be a nuisance. Okay, so for instance, Nigerians were very loud. So if I am picking a call,
Everybody
the
here,
people could
everybody
hear
here must
me.
know that, yeah.
But imagine that you are in an interchange, maybe you are in an airport or at a train station in somewhere in Europe. Maybe you arrive a place like Schiphol Airport, one of the biggest in the Schengen territory, and then you're making call very loudly. You will see people gathering to look at you. So it is a nuisance in that environment. But down here, everybody's like that. That's how we are. So I'm saying that to say that humans learn a lot more by observation. So the things that they have not seen people do. That is why even the things that are not bad in themselves, if you have a child, if they have never seen you do a particular thing and then they do it, they are waiting for approval or disapproval. So they're looking at you and then they're checking if what is he going to say. So as their moral compass at that point, we either give a nod or tell them that's wrong and we scold and it sticks. So imagine that at some point they have happened upon this kind of a thing. Imagine in secondary school, some of them saw it in boarding school. Somebody sneaked in phone, and then one person, people have told them that, oh, we have seen this. They will now gather. And maybe out of curiosity, why are they gathering? You also come and peep.
And you
You have seen. You have seen. So if they are arresting people that had seen it, you had seen it too. So these are the issues. There is almost always going to be the curiosity in a human's mind. And then sometimes the expectations are there as to what does this look like? For some people, they could gain the satisfaction at the initial point. And then after a while, they need a higher, more styles, more performances, more. So they just keep going until they lose control.
Okay, so while we're just trying to see how, in terms of helping these people, do you think it's okay? You've talked about the fact that this thing is now in our faces and we're having a whole lot of people indulge in it. I used to call it my generation. I might even leave out your generation, my generation, because many people in my generation, in terms of if you sample, people will tell you, I think, like you said, people are now, I don't want to say used to it, but people are now becoming more bold. Before now, it used to be something that was quite hidden, but people are now becoming more bold. And we know that with the boldness and the exposure, more people would be exposed to it. Do you advise couples, especially getting into a committed relationship like marriage, to discuss this aspect of their life in terms of expectation, in terms of exposure? Like, I they watch this thing, or I don't they watch them more. This is what I'm carrying in my head and expecting from you, whether a him or a her. So do you advise that couples should have these discussions?
These conversations should happen. However, it is not a thing of pride. So most people will not discuss it. They will allow you to maybe mistakenly now happen upon it someday. In short, matter of fact, there are very dark secrets inside marriages. So your ability to hold very honest conversations in a no hold bars perspective is very important. These conversations, that's why I always encourage premarital counseling. Go see a therapist, because some of us even carry baggages, a lot of trauma from childhood, from our homes. And then if you do not discuss these issues with your significant other, it becomes a problem to them. Not that it typically should be their problem, but when I think that so I think there is a quote I saw that was very, very profound that says that hurt people hurt people. So imagine someone who was hurt in his head, maybe not deliberately, but there were suppressed emotions, there were suppressed impulses in the process. There were some attitudes that were learned. There are some things that had been learned in the process. So they also express or project this same hurt to other
The
people
people.
unknowingly. So these conversations are very important. And so when before people get to marry, it is important for them to sit down and hold very honest conversations. Unless the both of you are people that are comfortable with getting married and getting divorced tomorrow. But for some of us who were very scared before getting married, we had made peace with the fact that, look, we're inside this tunnel. So everything that we needed to discuss, as much as possible, we had discussed exhaustively. And the ones that we could not, because there are a lot of things that you don't even know about yourself.
That's true.
It is in the process because there are a lot of things that are normal in your family, in
But
your
are not
house.
normal
They are
in
not
another
normal in
person's
another
family.
person. There are people that grow up seeing their parents hug and kiss in public. I had never seen that, man.
Would that-
I had no such experience. And so there's a relationship I had one time, and then she was all over holding hands, and
And you were
it was
like, we
strange to me.
don't
Like,
do
we don't
it
do
here.
that here, man. So being able to bridge these differences, because we are walls apart, we are individuals, differently raised, different upbringings, different environments. It may not even be a bad thing, but it's just that you were not exposed to it in this way. So today, my son goes off to school and he's hugging everybody, he's throwing kisses. Oh, love you, dad, love you. And I drop him, I love you. Like, I'm just thinking, when my dad used to drop me, what's that? I can't remember, man. So I'm saying this to say that whether it is trauma, whether it is learned habits, whether it is things that were normal. I recently saw a client who said, in my house, we're brutally honest. So if your mouth is smelly, I'm going to tell you, Daddy, your mouth is smelly, go and brush. And it is normal. And then she enters into a relationship and she lashes out at her man in public. And the guy is upset. Our relationship is about to scatter. So we sit down and then she says, this is how we are. And this man says, there is a bit of discretion. You just don't talk to me like that. So I said, you see, you are a hard fix from this end. You are a hard fix from this end. So until we're able to have a compromise, you now bring that your excess. This one brings this is conservation and understands that old habits die hard. So what I knew and what you knew, we must sit down and agree on the compromise we're going to have across these different aspects. And then there are some things that you will not be able to change, even in the lifestyle of your marriage, in the life cycle of your marriage. You hear people that have been married 40 years, 50 years, you say, if it is my wife,
She
don't
know
worry,
the-
she will not do this one. My mother does not carry her phone. So if, for instance, you have an emergency, don't call my mother. There's no need.
All right.
She will miss 5 calls and then call you later around 5 p.m. If you're about to die, you have already died. So, but it is my father who will now go out and then maybe have information from my mom, will call and she will not pick. He will come back. That thing is called handset. It is not a landline. So I'm saying all of these things to say that these conversations are important for us to have. And intending couples must hold very honest conversations for the sake of their marriages and the children they are going to give birth to. If not, it is going to be chaos every day.
All right. So, honest conversation. It's something that every intending couples in any form of relationship
Absolutely.
should actually have. Even in friendship, you should
Yes.
talk to your friends. So, just as we draw the curtain on today's episode, people have gone through this process. People have gotten this addiction of being exposed to pornography. What would you advise people in terms of ways they can unlearn this porn-based expectation as it comes around sex and pleasure and intimacy, so that it
Porn-based
can help them to
expectations.
enhance real intimacy?
The truth is, we need to sound it like an alarm that whatever you see in a pornographic movie,
It's not real.
it is a movie. That is why it is called a movie. Do you understand? It's a film. For the people in my village, I would say blue film. It is film for what it is. It is not reality. And so when you continue to have this at the back of your mind, it will shape what you look out for. And then I tell men these days, you will see very many widows, very many widows,
Widows.
and then fewer widowers. I've told people, "Nam safe can in this life." So when it gets to the point of when it gets to sex, as much as possible, understand how far you can go. Don't kill yourself, because these days people have started taking substances. Just this morning, somebody was advertising organ enlargement medication and stuff, and all this concussion, so that you can last 10 hours and this, and then later on in your life you have kidney failures and all of those liver issues. So understanding that in our language, do as much as you're able to do, but hold these conversations. Both of you must understand what is in this and how far we can go. And you could learn other approaches to, spending more time together. Sex should not exactly just be about penetration. It is more robust. It is laziness for people to just come in and then it's penetration,
penetrate and
then
go.
we are done and then you go. Come on, is it commercial sex? It doesn't even make sense. So the fun of sex is in the moment. It is in the intimacy. That is why most people would prefer saying making love, not like just because sex seems very transactional to them, but it is one and the same thing. It should communicate some kind of intimacy, closeness, bond. The more people exchange body fluids, see each other, they see finish in the process also. Do you understand? But that builds intimacy. It gets to the point where when I don't see each other finish, there's nothing to hide again. So if you have gotten to see each other in your nakedness and having sex, then there is nothing else that you want to hide. What else? If the Bible says naked and unashamed, it means that nakedness, they should have been,
Unashamed.
shamed. They should have been shamed somewhere. But this naked and unashamed means that there was an approval of sorts, legal backings, religious, spiritual backings that has given them go ahead to carry out this act. So having said that, I think you had also asked about what could be done. I think that beyond the expectations, people who have these challenges need to also seek help. But one of the first things that I think that people can do is social media has also put certain safeguards in place. You can go to filter your searches, you could clear your history, search history, and then you can even filter some keywords. So if you have filtered them and blocked them, it would reduce or completely terminate. It won't show you content along those lines. So you need to put these safeguards in place to help yourself. And then parents that have given early exposure to smartphones and computers to their children, there must be parental control. Because if not, they will wonder. It may not be deliberate because they probably had no idea whatsoever it was. They just visit a website and then it pops and then
Something
they
pops
click
up.
out of curiosity and then they get to see. And then maybe you call them, they end it.
And tomorrow they
And
want
tomorrow
to
they
come
want
see
to go
again.
and check when you are not around. So these are some of the issues. Put safeguards in place, parental controls here and there. And when you feel that there is something wrong, please scream for help. Because when it begins to take a toll on you, it has long-term impacts on your relationships and marriage. There will be nobody to bail you out.
Nigerians, Africans, please scream for help. I know that seeking help in this country, it's already a problem. So that's what we have for you today: porn versus reality. How this expectation shapes our sexual pleasure and intimacy. And we had the very amazing Mr. Udema O'Connor. He says he's just a common man.
Absolutely.
That's how he likes to address himself. Founder of
Teletherapy
Teletherapy Nigeria, and co-convener of the
Sacrificial
Sacrificial Lamb, which is an annual exhibition of arts to create awareness and support for mental health in Akwa Ibom State of Nigeria. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
It's very pertinent, the kind of conversation that we're actually having here. Thank you for what you do for Mother Earth. I won't forget that. I think, like you said, this is the first time I'm seeing someone who is like trying to marry the two. I'm also trying to, like you said, people don't realize climate change cuts across everything.
Yes.
With the changes in the weather, irritability,
Yes.
and we're seeing it even in the clinical practice of sexual and reproductive health. People are becoming anxious, easily anxious and
Yes.
worried,
Yes.
and as the case may be. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Intimate Matters podcast. Here, we talk about everything that pertains to your sexual and reproductive health. And for today, we were comparing porn versus reality and how it impacts on your sexual and reproductive health. Do well to like this video, to subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed, and share it so that other persons may also learn as you learn. And follow us on all our social media platforms. We're on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. And do well to join us on our WhatsApp channel. Let's have a very robust conversation. My name is Akwa. I am a nurse and also your anchor on the Intimate Matters podcast. And until we come your way next time, it's bye for now.